please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, the SGX Nifty, for whatever it's worth, for last 3 or 4 days, it's been worth nothing. But pointing out that 19 point down, 10,548 on Nifty futures. We are, of course, on expiry day now, so that would mean a spot opening also somewhere on that. Sudarshan Sukhani Mitesh Thakkar and Prakash Gaba with us. Good morning, gentlemen. Sudarshan, you were advising short yesterday on the Nifty. What's your thought process now? You reckon the move is over, and is this a market where you want to short now, or is there any other trade?
Yeah, good morning, Anuj. Well, the idea remains to be short whenever the opportunity arises. So the trade is divided in two parts. One is to take a positional short at least till the 15th of May, and that is by using a Nifty put option. So I'm buying 10,550 puts, and that's the suggestion, the May expiry puts. That is assuming that the Nifty will eventually break the support of 510, 500, whatever, and drift downward. Now that event may not happen today, but I'm working on the assumption that we will drift on the downside. It's been something I've been saying for 3 days now. The second trade is also on the short side. If there is an intraday rally, then I'm looking to go short for an intraday trade. I am not looking to buy any dips. So primarily, I am on the short side of this market with the sense that the rally is probably over and we are now distributing till we finally decide to go down.
Okay, good morning, Sudarshan. Would that work even more for the Nifty Bank?
Yeah, good morning, Lata. It's actually much easier for the Nifty Bank because there a short selling signal is very clear and visible. There is no resistance like 650 is for the Nifty, 10,600, 650. That resistance is not available on the Nifty Bank, which is simply drifting down. So the Nifty Bank is a short sell. This is the reason why I'm not able to become bullish on the Nifty in spite of IT doing well, because Nifty Bank is clearly in a downtrend now.
Okay, Nifty Bank is in a downtrend. Yes, we've been seeing that for the last few days. Mitesh Thakkar and Prakash Gaba also join into our discussion. Gentlemen, morning to both of you. Mitesh, what's your own view on how to approach the index? Today, of course, it could go either way because it's expiry. But also, what are you looking at with the new series?
Yeah, good morning. So I think I have identified two important counters, and I think I'll trade if the breakout or breakdown happens. I think on the upside we have a very well established level of 10,630. Broadly, you need 1 hour of sustenance beyond that to suggest some kind of a breakout. And on the downside, I think with this rally and the subsequent last 7-8 days of consolidation, the moving averages or the important ones are placed close to about 10,500. So I think as long as 10,500, 480 doesn't break, I would not be as bearish. But yes, we've been calling for consolidation purely because one, the Nifty Bank is looking weak and underperformer in this entire segment. Plus, I think the hourly charts have been quite overbought. So typically this could lead to some kind of sideways activity. So for the time being, we maintain that sideways kind of a range. But if we break 10,500, 480, that is the only time when I'll turn more negative. Till then, we are trading with more of a stock-specific bias.
Okay, Mitesh, morning, and what about the trade on the Bank Nifty?
Anuj, on the Bank Nifty, as I said, I think it's clearly underperforming. It's not the strongest of the sector right now. I think 24,600 is my second target. We had a target of 24,800 a couple of days back. I think that was hit yesterday. We might not fall much, but I think this is clearly one segment or one sector which will not outperform on the upside. So 24,600, you might get a bounce back and you might get some consolidation between 24,600 to about 25,050 or thereabout levels. Make it more of a range trade, but I'll be slightly more bearish, and at least on the individual side, the PSU banking side, we have been trading with clear-cut short bias.
Okay, Prakash, good morning. What's your trade on the index?
Nifty, to me, basically, when you look at the structure, it tells me that I am still up. But there's fatigue in the upper regions. Technical targets were 25, I would say 10,706. We never went there. In fact, got stuck much before that. So what we are seeing is two kinds of things. Correction could be time-wise or price-wise. What we are seeing the last 6 or 7 trading sessions is a time-wise correction. We need a price-wise correction as well. Looks like time for price-wise correction is there. There's a fatigue in the upper movement. There's a loss of momentum. So I feel there could be a sluggishness. We could see some down move here. If it's not going up in a hurry, but certainly it could come down slowly. As far as Bank Nifty is concerned, I feel it's weak out here. It's more weak than Nifty. Bank has led the way out here, and possible we could see some more sluggishness. The important levels to watch on Bank Nifty is around 24,731. That goes maybe 24,516 also is possible.
Okay, well, that's the view on the index, but let's drill it down to individual stocks. Sudarshan, the space to be in yesterday was mid-cap IT. All these stocks, Mindtree, Cyient, Emphasis hitting new highs. I don't see any of them on your list. Would you like to trade any of them today? And if not, what else would you be looking at?
No, you're quite right. Mid-cap IT is roaring and in a strong upswing. I don't have them today because today there could be a pause in their rally, and that creates a little bit of confusion. Buying after a big 2-day rally, which is why. But the trade is to buy on a dip there. We just have to wait for a dip. I think that will come. Here, let me quickly clarify. See, I am bearish on the market doesn't mean that the market cannot go up. It can, and it sometimes does. It simply means that if the Nifty decides to go up, I am not participating. That's the big. That's really what I'm trying to say. Bajaj Auto is a buying opportunity. It's a trade that's giving a sense that more momentum is on the upside. Now, the problem is that if the Nifty doesn't willingly go up, I don't know how the large caps will perform. But purely on the charts of Bajaj Auto, it's a buy. Britannia is a much easier buy because Britannia has been outperforming the Nifty and has actually moved up even when the index was coming down. So Britannia is my second buying idea for the day. It's also a positional trade. You could actually buy and carry it for a few weeks. Don't worry about the index in that sense for Britannia. Much easier are the short sells that are available. Castrol is a short sell, mainly because I think the crude theme is now playing out on the upside, and all stocks that use crude as inputs are going to be, or derivatives as inputs are going to be in trouble. They are already on the chart, they are already in trouble. So Castrol is a short sell. Similarly, Chennai Petro, it's making new lows day after day. So that's a short sell. And Repco Home Finance from the NBFC space is a short. Actually, all NBFCs primarily are short sells except for M&M Finance. But Repco Home is even weaker than the rest. That's saying a lot. So broadly, the markets are not giving me a comfortable feeling.
Okay. We'll come to you for more stocks. Mitesh, what would you trade today?
Yeah, so I have 3 sells to 2 buys, and I think we also had yesterday also had a slightly similar kind of stance, more short on the stock side. A couple of stocks are breaking down. The ones which have identified are IDFC. The intraday charts have turned negative, could decline to levels of around 50, short with a stop at 53.5. Kajaria Ceramics has broken below a rising trend line, so that's a negative setup. I expect some declines here. A sell with a stop at 563. Look for targets of 530. And my final sell called Ajanta Pharma, which is a conditional sell. If it breaks 1350, then go short. Keep a stop at 1367. Look for targets of 1320. I also have 2 buy calls, primarily from the FMCG side. Marico intraday charts have turned positive again, so this should get into some kind of an up move. Buy with a stop at 318. Look for 334 as the target. And Tata Global appears to have finally captured the levels of 285 to about 287. So that's a buy with a stop at 283 and look for targets of 304.
Okay, and Prakash, what's on your list today?
I have 2 buys and 2 shorts. Anuj, I'll start with HUL. Looks good. Can climb to levels closer to 1480 zones. Stop below 1452 is an indicator buy here. So is the case with Tata Global here. Can climb to around 295. Mitesh is an enhanced target. Good enough. It can even go there as well. Stop below 286. I have 2 shorts. Bank of Baroda is a short. Can see a slide to around 130 zones. Stop above 140. It's a breakdown structure. So is the case with Tata Steel. Seen a down move yesterday. Possible target on the downside can slide down to his 574 or even lower. Stop above 594.
Okay, well, thanks guys for giving us all of those stocks. But let's discuss some numbers now. Wipro's Q4 earnings came in far below street estimates. First, let's listen in to what the management had to say. Here's more from Abid Ali Neemuchwala, the CEO, who seems confident of being able to return to their growth trajectory in Q2.
A surprise that we had of unfortunately 2 bankruptcies of our clients hitting us in the same quarter. If you remember, the first bankruptcy hit us in the first week of last quarter, and the second bankruptcy hit us in the last week of last quarter. Obviously, we took the margin hit emanating out of those bankruptcies in Q4, but the run rate revenue hit is reflected primarily in our Q1 guidance. Overall, I see a very good momentum, and that gives me confidence that we will return to growth Q2 onwards, and we will work through Q1 to execute on our strategy.
Okay, so that's the promise, but the reality is that there is a big miss, one because of one telecom telecom client going into bankruptcy, and of course that health acquisition not quite working. Apurva Prasad of HDFC Securities joins us to give us a view on how he'll trade Wipro here on. Well, good morning, Apurva. Are you going to take the management as for its word that things can improve after this quarter, where they are anyway guided lower? At what level will you at all turn a buyer of Wipro?
Hi, good morning. So I think recovery is still awaited. The fact that, prospects of better growth is, getting pushed every quarter. So if you remember a few quarters back, management had a target to get to industry growth by fourth quarter, which moved to next quarter, and now next quarter is a decline. So I think the way to really look at what's happening with their overall portfolio, it's the 20% of their portfolio, which includes healthcare and telecommunication, that's really struggling. If you X out that, the balance 80% is actually growing pretty similar to its peers. So I mean, the challenge is within those pockets, and I think I wouldn't really like to call a recovery in that anytime soon yet. So I mean, we're still hoping that comes back. The problem has been also inconsistency within their top 5, top 10 account performance, so that tends to get pretty volatile. So I think as we move ahead, we would prefer to have a more secular sort of a performance from this company, but then that's something that remains elusive.
Remains elusive, and how, Apurva? For the last, 8-10 quarters now, the company has, been underperforming the industry as a whole. You think that could continue, and where are you as far as target prices are concerned?
Yes, so our target price currently, we have a neutral rating on this. The target price is 285. We're likely to take that lower, which our estimates will probably come down lower slightly. So yeah, that doesn't change. I think that's our pecking order in tier 1 IT would still be, an Infosys, HCL Tech, and Tech Mahindra, and I think there is still some time before, despite the fact that valuations look a lot lower than Wipro, we would not be considering upgrading at this point of time.
All right, Apurva, thank you very much for putting that on the table. So market is going to express its dissatisfaction with the Wipro numbers. Let's be prepared for that. We have to take a break, but before that, Economic Affairs Secretary Subhash Chandra Garg, SC Garg that is, says that the macroeconomic situation of the country remains sound. In an exclusive conversation with CNBC TV 18's Shireen Bhan, he talked about rising crude prices, the cash crunch situation, the IBC process, and the overall economic status. Listen in particularly to what he had to say about crude prices above $75.
The macro situation remains, to my mind, very sound. You people had described at that time a kind of dovish statement. The minutes which were released reflect some internal discussions, some views of the members. But finally, what the committee said is what was released on as the official statement. And that is what represents the true view of the MPC. And that is what suggested that the Reserve Bank continues to believe that the inflation would be trending down. The growth would be very good, over 7.4% of GDP. And therefore, I think both the Reserve Bank and we here continue to believe that macroeconomy and fundamentals are sound. MPC meets again in June. That's the time they take view. And I would like to believe that they would take into account the fundamentals of the macro. The inflation continues to be reasonably low. We just had the year-end numbers. Both the wholesale as well as the retail inflations were very low. So that is what they will go by. The growth continues to be good. But it's for the MPC at that stage to do a kind of stock taking, and we will need to wait for that. There is nothing, I think more should be read on the minutes of the past meeting. Oil has indeed touched about 75. Government in the past have said when it goes around 75, 80, it starts looking at the options, because consumers have to be protected. We don't believe at this stage that this kind of prices are permanent or for a longer time. So we're watching that situation.
today is expiry day, so the most important cues would be F&O cues. Manoj Muralidharan of Redigare Securities joins us now. Manoj, what's your best guess as to where the Nifty will end the current contract and what's the trade?
Good morning, Lata. Lata, I guess half of the month is gone in this 150 range of Nifty that we are seeing, 10,450 to 10,600. Now, ideally, we believe that the Nifty rollovers is just at 45% and the Bank Nifty is at 49%. And the irony here is there is short rollovers which is happening in the Bank Nifty and there is still long rollovers that is happening in the Nifty. Now, as of expiry, when we start this morning, we should have been roughly around 51 to 54%. If you have to almost match the 3 months average, so we are shy. The major indices are almost shying by 5%, and we believe that the roll cost for the Nifty rolls is as low as 18.5 to 22 bips. And despite that, we are not really seeing good amount of rollover. So that might be the reason that we might see a VWAP selling. So the strategy here is, the first half we are expecting the Nifty to be range bound with a positive bias. The second half might be a selling from the Bank Nifty. So for the first half, you trade by buying a 10,550 call option. I guess you'll get it between 12 to 18 rupees for a target of 40. Closer to that, during the second half, we are expecting a sell call on Nifty. So we'd rather go with the Bank Nifty. Sell Bank Nifty at 24,900. Stop loss should be 25,040. The target is 24,700 on that.
Okay. What about your calls, your stock calls today?
Stock calls, there are a couple of them. We're trying to look into the VWAP concept, which usually works, especially after, let's say, the rollovers which happened from Feb to March onward. We are seeing some good specific VWAP counters. I guess Tata Power would be positive today because we have seen good VWAP concept evolving, and possibly we believe that the distribution of the stock might be somewhere close to an 88. So 85.50 we recommend buying that. The stop loss strictly should be 84. We like Idea as well at 71 with a stop loss of 68.30, and we are expecting a weighted average price of 74.50 on that. Chola Finance would also be a buy at 16.70 with a stop loss 16.30, and we are expecting a target of 17.30 on that.
Okay, thank you very much, Manoj, for joining us and giving us some trading strategies on what's going to be a very crucial day for the F&O players. Also crucial day for banking stocks. In fact, for the entire Nifty Bank, Axis Bank and Yes Bank will be reporting their numbers today. Before we get an expert to speak about it, our in-house expert Abhishek is here with the market's key expectations. Abhishek, first, Axis Bank.
Well, Lata, the two key figures for Axis Bank are slippages and how the stressed asset portfolio performs. So, in stressed asset portfolio, there are two numbers. One is watch list of about 6,100 crores, and then the lower rated profile book, that is BB and lower rated, which is about 21,000 crores. So, if the slippages come in from this 27,000 crore, then it is already factored in. If the slippages come in apart from this 27,000 crore, that will be a key negative. Analysts on street are estimating a slippages of around 9,000 crore. Our polls suggest an NII growth of just 5%, while net profit to be down 89%. Don't be surprised if Axis Bank reports a loss, because many analysts like Elara, Ambit, BNK are working with a net loss for the current quarter. Coming on to Yes Bank, the reappointment of Rana Kapoor will be a key factor to watch what the board outcomes come in from that angle. Apart from that, coming on to the numbers, the loan growth between 30 to 35% will be positive. Over the last few quarters, the loan growth has been in the region of 30 to 35%. Net interest margin above 3.4% will be positive. Asset quality largely to remain stable, but provisions to be on the higher end. Our polls suggest NII growth of 26%, net profit to grow 16%.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Abhishek. In fact, let's pose this question to Krishnan ASV of SBI Cap Securities, who joins in with some expectations. Krishnan, hi, good morning. On Axis Bank, as Abhishek was suggesting, the expectation is that the slippages could be around 9,000 crores or so. What's your own view?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me on the show. We are looking at a corporate stress pool of about 180 billion, and we think that will dissolve over the next 3 quarters. We believe a large part of that will probably come through in March. There is no precise number that I would be tracking, but as Abhishek mentioned, we are looking at where the stress is originating from. As long as that pool is not growing and you're just reporting a number into NPL recognition from within that pool, we are broadly okay. So we're looking at about 75 billion for the Q4.
Okay.
That's the kind of print we are expecting in terms of slippages during this quarter. Yeah.
7,500 crore. Then what is 180 billion?
So that's the overall pool of NPLs that will fall through over the next 3 quarters, I would assume. Not all of it will fall through just in the March quarter. We expect a fair amount of dissolve that will happen, or say a devolvement that will happen from within this pool over the June and September quarters as well.
Okay. In your in this stress book, which Axis has declared, 6,100 crore of watch list and about 20,000 crore of BB minus book. Are cases like Reliance Naval or Reliance Infra, where out of the blue you have auditor red flags? At least in Reliance Infra it was out of the blue. In Reliance Naval maybe on expected lines. Are all these included? Because the Reserve Bank's circular also had in February a set of conditions where you are supposed to look at stress before the loan begins to misbehave. So do you think bankers can get more proactive because auditors have gotten proactive?
So just on the back of this RBI circular, remember NPL recognition is still at 90 DPD, right? And I would expect most private sector lenders would probably recognize NPL on a rule versus discretion basis. I think they will apply rules.
Okay.
And essentially whatever dispensations have been withdrawn will be immediately classified as NPL. Okay. I mean, there would be dicey cases where, even if Axis Bank does not quite report them, that at the end of the day, the divergence would probably show up as well. So I think we'll make some adjustments to that reported number, surely. Yeah.
Okay, so if you
but we can't quite go asset by asset, Lata.
Yeah, no, I can see the problem both for bankers and for analysts. But if it comes at 7,500 crore slippages, and the overall stress book is not changed much by the bank, then you think it is in the price already? How are you looking at the price movement?
Yeah, we would then believe that's broadly in the price. As long as the stress pool does not grow. Now, at whatever run rate it dissolves into NPL is a little immaterial. As long as the stress pool does not grow, as long as that pool is between 180 to 200 billion, I think we are broadly in the price then. Yeah.
Okay, what about Yes Bank? For Yes Bank, the slippages last quarter were somewhere to the tune of 500 crores or so. What are you expecting this time around?
Broadly a similar run rate. So yeah, we're looking at no sharp spikes as far as slippages in Yes Bank are concerned. We think, the credit costs could remain a bit elevated. They need to catch up on, provisions a bit. But I would imagine that the delinquency or the NPL formation run rate is unlikely to change materially.
Well, the CEO's renewal will also be discussed by the board. And another CEO has probably not been continued because of reportage of high divergences, among other things. Won't that be a factor in the way the bank recognizes NPAs? And secondly, how would you respond to Kapoor's continuation or otherwise?
Yeah, so very tricky question. But okay, so the way we look at this is essentially, high divergences are not a very pleasant conversation to have with the regulator. And so to that extent, the sooner banks learn and adapt to, the RBI's assessment of risk and the supervisory framework and align their NPL recognition in sync with the RBI's risk-based supervision, the better off these banks are. Having said that, we also acknowledge that the last 2 supervision cycles actually happened fairly quickly for Yes Bank. So in April 2017 was, I think, the first round that we heard in terms of the fiscal 2016 divergence. And then within 6 months, you had October 2017, where you had the fiscal 2017 divergence being reported. By the time the RBI, submitted its report on the fiscal 2016 divergence, Yes Bank had already reported its FY17 numbers. So I think there was no time
to correct
for Yes Bank to have learnt and adapted, but now I think there is. So if divergence continues now, I would be worried. If divergence is a very high number now, that would, I would be worried that will stay true for all banks actually, not just for Yes.
Okay, thanks a lot. Actually, you've put a lot more clarity into what to expect from the numbers this time. Sorry, we've run out of time, but thank you for joining us, Krishnan. Well, that's the word coming in on what to expect from the key numbers, Axis Bank and Yes Bank. Take a short